G'day Knuckleheads, it's Uncle Knackers here, and it's great to be back. Now before I start, I just want to give a quick thank you and a shout out to all of those who sent in messages in regard to my dodgy shoulder. It was much appreciated. What do you think of the growth in the new specs? Very blue steel. So today's project, I thought I'd start the year off, if you call the middle of March the start of the year, with a really fun build. And I've come up with the idea of an outdoor play kitchen for the kids made out of old pallets. Now I don't want a symmetrical, big, bulky pallet kitchen. I want one that's a bit wonky, where nothing really lines up, and it looks like it's come out of an old comic book. Now just between you and I can't wait to start this. So first of all we need are some pallets. Got one. Was that possibly the world's worst ever special effect? I think so. Now for my play kitchen, you'll notice that I'm using old hardwood pallets, and there's two really good reasons for that. The first reason is that I reckon it looks better. I love that old rustic look. And the second reason is that the new pine softwood pallets, they still may have some chemical residue left over, which might not be that flash for the kids. Now you'll also notice that I have a heavy duty hardwood pallet and a much more light duty hardwood pallet. And the reason for that is that I want this one here to go on the top with the slats running that way, and I want the lighter one for the bottom shelf with the slats running the other direction, and that's purely to create some contrast. So now it's time to cut the shelves, the depth of the shelves. Now I've already cut the bottom shelf. Now all I need to do is cut the top shelf. Now the depth of my shelves is going to be around 530 millimeters, or about 21 inches. So your top shelf's cut and your bottom shelf's cut. Now all you need to do is to fill in these gaps with the slats that you have left over. Now before you install those slats, it's a great idea to grab your sander and give the whole unit a sand, because it's much easier at this stage than when it's all assembled. And after all, you don't want your kids getting splinters. Now remember, with this build, it doesn't need to be too neat. So if there's gaps between your boards, it doesn't really matter. I'm liking this job more and more. Done. Now it's time for the legs. Now before we attach those legs, you'll notice that I've made a bit of a detail change to this top shelf. I've cut the support back about 1.5 inches from that leading edge. Now the reason for that is that I didn't want the top shelf to look too bulky across the front. So I've cut it back 1.5 inches, and what that does is it allows me to install this slat, which I've cut down. Now we'll go across like that, and the front looks much lighter. I like it. Now for the legs, I'm just using the slats from that same old pallet. I'm going to cut them to a length of 650 millimeters, which I think is about 25.5 inches. Now that measurement isn't set in stone. I think it just depends on how tall your kids are. So it's time to attach the legs. Now to create that wonky comic-like look, I want to come in about 2 inches from the edge, and then I don't want the leg to sit straight up and down. I want it to be kicked in just a little bit, and then you can nail off. So once again, come in about 2 inches or 50 mil from the edge of the pallet, and then nail on the leg and make sure it's slightly kicked in or kicked out, whichever one you want. So now we have the top shelf sitting over the bottom shelf. And you'll also notice that this bottom pallet here is sitting on some blocks on either end and both sides. And the reason for that is that elevates this pallet up off the ground and away from the water. Now the legs also are going to be nailed off into this pallet, but I've also just kicked them in just a little bit just to create that wonkiness look. And now, just to make it a bit more stable, I might drive a couple of screws into each of these legs here, just to make it a bit more solid. And before you drive those screws in, just make sure you pre-drill first, because this old hardwood splits really easily. Well, it's looking pretty good, but like all kitchens, it needs a splashback. So a couple of these slats will do the job just nicely. And now it's time for a bit of advertising that I want to display across that splashback. Looks pretty good, doesn't it? And of course, all kitchen benches will have a kitchen sink. So go grab yourself an old cake tin or a bucket, something like that, and place it on the bench where you want it. Get a pencil, trace around the outside edge, go and grab a jigsaw like this, cut that shape out and drop the sink in. And just in case you haven't used one of these jigsaws before, you'll need to drill a hole in the surface first so you can insert that blade. So now the blade from this jigsaw can sit inside that hole and you can start your cut. With the hole cut, we can now drop our sink in. Beautiful. With the kitchen sink in place, I think what the bench top needs now are a couple of hot plates. So I intend to paint a couple onto the surface here. Now you can either use an old pot from the kitchen or maybe even an old frisbee that you got floating around the backyard over the fence. It's a pretty dodgy old paint job, but I think you get the idea. All done. Looks pretty good, doesn't it? So I think I need a couple of control knobs for those two hot plates. So I'm going to use my hole saw that I use for cutting out door handles. There we are. You don't want to screw these on too tight because you still want the knob to turn. Lovely. Now I've just cut some little pieces of timber and painted them black. And I want to put those on the face of the knob like that so that the kids can easily turn it. Now to attach these little pieces of wood, I need to nail them. but nailing it will definitely split that timber, so you'll need to pre-drill, but you won't be able to get a drill bit small enough. So all you have to do is get the nail size that you're going to be using, cut the head off with some pliers, and then use that nail as the drill bit. Works like a charm. So there it is, all done, and I'm absolutely wrapped in how it turned out. It looks like it's come out of a comic book, which is what I wanted, and even better still, the total cost for this build was at $1, and that was for the cake tin that I bought from an op shop. Now, you can knock this up easily in a weekend, and it's going to provide the kids hours and hours of mud pie making fun. I wish I had one of these when I was a kid. So who's up for a mud pie? They're only 5 cents, an absolute bargain. Great tip, knackers! What a great little project. And if you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel and give it the old thumbs up. It'll be all greatly appreciated. Anyway, I can't wait till the young bloke gets home from school. He's going to love it. Straight out of the oven. They smell absolutely beautiful. But I'm only charging 5 cents. I'm not going to make any money. I might have to rejig my pricing structure. Anyway, till then, I'm out of here. Cheers.